Hello and welcome back to another video in the sound design series. Today I'm going to be showing you how to synthesize a kick drum from scratch so that you don't have to search through sample packs for ages and you have a lot more control over the low end of your track. So let's dive right in and take a listen to the final result. Just like the other videos in this series, I'm going to be using the Serum synthesizer, but you can follow along on any synthesizer that has similar functions. The final result's going to sound a little bit like this. So it's that really classic, deep, electronic, punchy kick drum, but this one has an awful lot of control over the shape, so we can actually make it a lot longer and boomy, and we can control all the sorts of different pitch effects and attack. So there's a whole lot of control over this just before I initialize it, so that's the sort of kick drum sound we're going to be going for today. So I'm going to just start now by initializing the synth. First thing to do would be to go onto the a global tab in your synth and change the oscillator settings to the maximum quality. That really helps. And also just make sure that your synth is in mono because we don't want any overlapping kick drums or any of that sort of nonsense. So this tutorial is really split into three parts. We need to create the main sub of the synth, a little bit of the body, more of the sort of harmonic sound, and then we need an attack. So I'm just going to start with the main sub sound. So for this, what I'm going to do is make sure that I have a sine wave. So in Serum, I just go into Analog, Basic Shapes, Sine Wave. And from here, I'm going to take the oscillator pitch and just drag it down 2 octaves. And now I'm going to play a note on this MIDI keyboard or the piano roll that sounds really nice and deep. And what's ideal about this technique is that you can tune your kick drum to your song perfectly. So in this case, let's try and find a good key. It's a bit too high. I've got this F sharp here. It's a really nice tone, and I know that it's the fundamental frequency of my track, so that's going to work for me here. A really nice low tone. Right now we just have a sub, so we need to give this a shape. Envelope 1 in Serum is the ADSR envelope. If you don't know what that is, please watch my introduction to sound design video, which I've linked just up here. Increase the hold to about 100 milliseconds for now. I'm going to take the sustain down to minus infinity. And then I'm going to change the decay to about 100 milliseconds as well. So this gives us a sound like this. And you can see from here, you can just adjust the hold and decay to give yourself the exact shape of a kick that you want. So if you want something with a longer decay, you can copy these settings I have here, but it's likely going to change throughout this tutorial. The next step is a little bit complicated, but you can always rewind this video and watch again. What we need to do is alter the pitch of this oscillator so that it starts at a higher pitch and very quickly drifts down to this note here. So what I'm going to do for this is take a second envelope here. I'm just going to drag the sustain all the way down, so I've got this shape that looks like this, sort of just like a triangle. Now I'm going to drag it onto the pitch of the oscillator, this coarse pitch value here. And this little blue line has been added here. So what I'm going to do is just drag up and extend this. If I press a key now and we look at the visualizer, you'll notice that it starts higher and then it goes way down below my pitch, the one that I actually want. So I need to change the mode of this by pressing Shift and Alt and then a left click. And now it's just going to drift down to the same pitch as my note. However, you can also access this from the Matrix tab. It's this type arrow here. So we want it to just have a single arrowhead, just like this. So now if I go back to the oscillators, I'm going to change this pitch envelope a little bit more, make it a little bit steeper like this, okay? So that's a really nice punchy effect, but now I'm going to go to the matrix and just sort of fine tune this a little bit. So more to the right is going to give me a really pitchy sound. To the left, just gives me a nice bit of attack. So now if I bypass this and we hear what it's really doing, without, we just have that subtone. But with, we have a lot more body and shape to this kick drum. I know that step can get a little bit complicated, but it really is just getting an envelope that starts high and goes low and very quickly sweeps down the pitch of your oscillator. The next thing we're going to do is add a filter, and I'm just going to use the same envelope. You can create a new one, but I'm looking for this sort of shape anyway. And I'm just going to link that to the cutoff of the filter. This is a low pass filter, and it's going to very quickly sweep away the high and mid frequencies. And this just sort of cleans up the kick drum. If I play around with the cutoff whilst I'm pressing the key here, you can really control how much of that mid frequency remains. and it just sort of cleans up the sound. But something I'm also going to use it for is to turn down my master volume a little bit and drive this filter, and this adds a whole lot of harmonic content that wasn't there before. It just makes it a much more full and thick sound. Wonderful. And if I briefly go back to my matrix, it's really important that the type of both of these is just the single arrowhead so that we don't get any sort of crazy fluctuations going on. So that's the main body of the sound, but we need to control the attack so that it's a bit more consistent. So for this, we're going to use the noise oscillator. I'm also going to run it through the filter here, and I'm going to set it to one-shot mode. If I actually turn off the filter and turn off this, we just get the noise on its own. On Serum, there's a whole folder full of different noises, including attack kick noises, so you can just find one that you like. And we're just looking to add a little click to the start of our kick drum. Just like that. However, if your synth doesn't have a noise generator, you can actually just find a click sample and just layer that with your synth, and it will pretty much give the same result. Now I've turned back on my oscillator and filter, and I can adjust the level of this noise to add more or less attack to this kick drum. I like somewhere in the middle like that. I'm going to dive into some further effects and processing in a minute, but this is the time to start shaping the kick to fit in with your track. So if I just play the kick along with my snare and hi-hat here, and if you do find that you need a longer kick, just add a bit more hold, a bit more decay to the sound. And remember that your MIDI note might cut off, so don't be afraid to drag the MIDI out a little bit like this. So that's a bit long. Drag the hold back in, the decay in a little bit more. And that sounds really good to me for now. So to get the shape of the kick fitting into your track perfectly, just adjust the hold and decay a little bit. And also don't be afraid to keep messing with this pitch value that you set earlier, because it can really change the attack of the kick and just make it fit in really, really well. Now we're going to dive into some further effects processing, and I'm not going to actually use the effects chain in Serum for this. I'm going to just use some on the mixer just for a little bit of variety. So the first thing is really simple. Like if your kick drum needs more low end, just give it a bit more low end with a EQ, with a filter like this. Sometimes, it's a tip I've got from a lot of people, if you clean up a little bit around 300 or 400, it can clean up a bit of the mud in the kick drum. And of course, if you want more attack, don't be afraid to boost the high end. It can really pull up that click there. The next thing would be to experiment with overdrive. So there's two here. One was the fruity overdrive. Another was this black box that I've been trying out from Plugin Alliance. So the idea here is to just distort it, clip it a little bit. You know, you might need to sort of dirty up the kick drum so it doesn't sound so smooth in your track. So if I add a little bit of distortion, you'll hear the effect. Without, with. And I've really been enjoying this plugin because, I'll just show you before and after. That's before. That's just some real nice grit there. I really just think that sounds amazing. So I'll turn those off just for now. And then another effect that I'd really highly recommend for kick drums is transient processing. Often if your kick needs a little bit more attack or a little bit less attack, just grab a transient processor and just adjust the attack. So if I take this down a little bit, my kick loses attack, push it up, we get a lot more click. So sometimes that's a really fast way to shape your kick as well. And finally, I would recommend using compression on your drums as well, especially on the kick drum. I'll just play the kick a few times with the compression turned off, then on. Do you hear how it really just fattened up the sound? So in this case, I'm not afraid to do a lot of heavy compression and just use a lot of makeup gain. If you use a longer attack time, you're going to get more of the click. If you use a faster attack time, you can lose some of the click, but you can get a whole lot of fatness out of it. I don't really have any specific settings for you here because it's going to change so much, but if you want to learn more about compression, again, check out my video just linked here, and I'll be making a drum compression video very soon. It's far too big a topic to dive into in this one video. I do have two announcements in a minute, including the giveaway that I ran last week. I wanted to briefly say, when you're designing kick drums, I've been using exclusively headphones. Now they are very, very good headphones, the Beyerdynamic 1990 Pros, but try to, take them off, listen on speakers as well. I'm using headphones so that I can record my voice, but definitely check your kick drums on speakers and headphones. I also wanted to say this preset and all the presets, in the sound design series, plus many more that I'm developing, are in a sample pack, which I've started selling. So if you want to support the channel and find out more about that, there's some information in the description. I also wanted to say the giveaway from 2 weeks ago, the copy of FL Studio, the winner was chosen at random as Energy Beats here. This was in my last video about left and right EQ, and loads of people left so many incredible tips and tricks for how to use EQ. This guy's winning a copy of FL Studio, or if he already has it, I'll upgrade him to the all plugin bundle. His EQ tip was that you can easily get carried away using EQ, especially if you're sweeping around looking for bad frequencies. If you're boosting those frequencies, they might sound bad already. So he was just saying, try to listen to your sound overall and just really, listen to it first. Don't worry about sweeping too much. Try to identify the problems in a more natural way. But there are so many incredible comments on this video. There's so many tips and tricks to learn here. They just keep going on forever. So if you want some EQ tips, go check out the last video. But for today, I hope that's a really good introduction to designing your own kick drums. Don't forget to keep them in the key and tune of your track. And you just have so many possibilities to shape and sculpt the sound. And I hope you have a lot of fun with it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video too. Bye for now.